there are some typos. One that I put my eyes on, but you know, sometimes when you look at the same thing a million times, it's like being married for 50 years. You know, you got to appreciate it. But you got to appreciate it. That's the key word, James, appreciation. I know you learned that, brother. James Spaulding, yes. Yes, Mr. James Spaulding we have. And you'll hear from them later on, but we have the family of Ronnie Matthews. Leslie Conte, will you please take a stand with your friend? This is the family of Ronnie Matthews. Take a chance to greet the family. How about the family of James Spaulding? Please stand so the people know who you are, so they can greet you and congratulate you. Because as every jazz artist in this room knows, it really takes your family behind these artists. They on the road and all the work that they have to do behind the scenes, just for that 1 hour gig we might hear on the stage. There's hours and years and decades of work that goes into that. So as everybody retrieves their seats, I'm going to take this opportunity to invite to the stage the president of the Brooklyn Historical Society. We've been at this beautiful edifice now, talking to Deborah, almost going on 10 years, at least a good 7 years, and they have hosted this event we call the Brooklyn Jazz Hall of Fame and Museum. And we'll also have someone speak more, our council member, tell you a little bit more of the importance of why this edifice we call the Brooklyn Jazz Hall of Fame Museum should have a home. But right now, put your hands together and help me bring to the stage Deborah Schwartz. Deborah.
Good evening. It is really such a pleasure to have you all here with us at the Brooklyn Historical Society. This really has become a remarkable tradition, and we're very proud to be a host to you. I want to thank Bob, who's had such amazing vision for this for so long, and has sort of made me feel like a member of your family, and I'm very grateful for that. It was, I think, my first year here that we worked with Randy Weston and had a very magical and remarkable night, and we wish him happy birthday this month, right? 90 years old, and I know that he's here with us in spirit. So I just want to tell you a few things about this place that you're in, which is also kind of a historical place and very, very meaningful in the history of Brooklyn. We hope you'll come back and explore it in other ways as well. This place has been around since 1863, and it functions as a museum, as an education center. We have thousands and thousands of children from public schools who come in through this place every year. We try to offer our programs to students from the public schools for free. We also have exhibitions here. Just on the other side of this wall is an exhibition about the history of abolition in Brooklyn, and I hope you have a few minutes to take a good look at it. And the other thing that we do is lots and lots of programs. So in addition to this wonderful program, night after night, we have all kinds of programs that really tie history together with present-day issues. So for us, the stories about Brooklyn, both the triumphs, the successes, but also the challenges and the things that we have not yet succeeded in solving, issues of social inequity, racism, issues that are of concern to all of us are issues that we bring to the stage, and we invite our audiences to have conversations with us about those issues. So I hope that on your way out, all of you will pick up one of these brochures, sign up for our e-blasts, and come back over and over again. Our programs are sometimes free, sometimes tickets are $5, but almost always very affordable. And we're always excited to invite people in who have not been to our programs before. So without further ado, I'm going to let you get on with the festivities. Thank you all for being here, and have a fantastic evening. Congratulations to all the honorees this evening. We're really proud to be here.
So right now, you know, this has been our home away from home. We call this Central Brooklyn Central. But we're going to bring to the stage someone who knows all about how to build a museum. an institution where the culture can be housed, preserved, and educational activities can go on. So I'd like to introduce a special council person, and we know more as a friend of the arts. So I don't think she needs a lot of introduction once I say the name, Lori Cumbo. Please put your hands together for Central Brooklyn, Miss Lori Cumbo. Lori, thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm so proud to be here because this is an opportunity for me to share in all of the joy and the greatness that is the Central Brooklyn Jazz Consortium. I'm so happy that you saw it fit to support me so that I would then be in a position to support you. And every year it's my honor and my privilege to make sure that your tax-paying dollars come back to this very institution. And it's an honor and a privilege to do that every single year. And as long as I'm in the city council, I will continue to do so and continue to support the critical work that happens here, because this is really, on so many levels, the birthplace of jazz music. This is where so many of our icons come from. This is where the music is created. This is where the music is shared, and it's experienced all over the world. And so I'm so very proud to be from this particular borough. As many of you know, I started a museum, the Museum of Contemporary African Diaspora and Arts, MOCADA, about 16 years ago. No, maybe 18 years ago now. It's kind of like my life has been frozen since I've been in the city council. But it has been a tremendous experience to see the institution grow. But institutions are so critical because institutions institutionalize a culture. And when I go all over the world and I see these international jazz festivals, I'll be honest, I get a bit jealous, because we should have that same level of support, we should have that same international visibility, and we need to recognize that while we have Eric Adams as borough president, public advocate Letitia James, Congress members Hakeem Jeffries and Yvette Clark, while we have myself in the city council, we need to take advantage of this time and make sure that while everyone's in place, that we come together and solidify your presence in the borough of Brooklyn. I'm always so very proud to talk about all of the jazz giants that come from Brooklyn wherever I go, whether it's Randy Weston, whether it's Max Roach, whether it's Lena Horne. I know that one of your honorees, Ronnie Matthews, who I went to Berkeley Carroll with his daughter, Selena Matthews. Salima, that's right. It was some time ago. But I knew that I was going to school with somebody famous. She was a couple of grades ahead of me. But I knew that she was somebody big and that her dad was somebody big in the jazz world. But I've been so proud of the work that has been produced out of Brooklyn, New York. And I want to say this is a critical time. Fundraising is critical. The ability to recognize development projects that are happening in the borough. We have the Bedford Union Armory, which is a project that's going to be the crown jewel of the Crown Heights community. And it's critical if we want to see a Jazz Hall of Fame in Brooklyn. We should look at spaces such as the Bedford Union Armory. We should look at development projects that are happening in Brooklyn. Right now, recently, I went to the grand opening of Arts East New York. It was an incredible opportunity to see the work of Catherine Green, who has been doing this work for over 15 years, transformed into a beautiful space in East New York where people will be able to come to celebrate the art, culture, and history of East New York. It is certainly an oasis there. So I hope that you all will come to visit that space, but that we will also be able to create our own space collaboratively and together. So I want to thank you all on behalf of the New York City Council. I want to thank everyone here at the Brooklyn Historical Society. You all are doing incredible work, the entire team. Thank you so much, Deborah, for always opening up your doors. And I want to thank everybody at the Central Brooklyn Jazz Consortium for recognizing the history and the culture, and that we continue to share this gift with our young people so that the next generation of young people rise up and carry on the great tradition that is American music, that is Brooklyn's music, that is the Brooklyn music of the African diaspora. So I thank you all so much for your time, your energy, and let's continue to lift up the voice of jazz in Brooklyn, New York. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori Cumbo. We got a special person here. There's only 6 of them now. You know, I was telling Lori about some of the people who have entered into this, what do you want to call it? Hall of Fame
That's right.
thing.
Yes.
There's James, Neil Clark, Lassetti, Leslie Conte. You know, there are 6 living people who are part of the Brooklyn Jazz Hall who have been inducted into the Brooklyn Jazz Hall of Fame. One of them happens to be here tonight. You know, these guys work for a living. Kenny Barron wanted to be here. Randy Weston wore himself out last night. He wanted to be here for Neil, and Neil wore him out. Neil wore him out. Y'all should have been there last night. Neil wore him out. So Randy wanted to be here.
Where did all this wearing out happen at?
At the Brooklyn Public Library.
Oh, man.
While you was doing the state of the district.
Oh, that's right. I was in a
She's
good
taking
place.
care of the business of the district.
That's right.
But that's just to say, even Reggie Workman, Alex Blake, who wore himself out on the stage last night. The great Alex Blake. And the person we have here, homegrown, I like to bring him to the stage just for recognition purposes. Mr. Stanley Banks, the great Stanley Banks. Please put your hands together. The great Stanley Banks. You know what? If you guys want a tour of what Brooklyn Jazz is all about, get invited to Stanley's house and go up the steps and see all the silver, gold, and platinum. That's how he pays his rent. He hawks them every once in a while.
That's
Great
what I'm
Stanley
talking
Banks.
about.
Stanley, please come here for a minute.
Woo!
Stanley Banks.
You know, she said something very important. Thank
Say
you.
a couple words, Stanley. He's not going to do a lot of speaking.
I'm not going to speak. I'm not going to
We have
speak.
to recognize Stanley.
Neil, you know, we've been hitting these streets for a long time. All I can tell you is when you get that award, it makes you feel that much more special by your peers. But Ms. Cumbo just said something that was very important, and we know all about this. We know about leaving this country. We have seen hundreds of jazz festivals. So what I'm saying now, what I'm going to ask is how can we, the politicians, CBJC, how can we have one meeting in which we try to figure out how to get those people from Europe over here, or the word out? That could be done in a meeting, just to get the word out, right? You know, it can be done through the, but there's, if we can, committed effort and a piece of communication from here to the individual jazz festivals. I mean, I can go over to a jazz festival and say, hey, look, I'm part of CBJC's, da-da-da-da-da. But it would be official coming from CBJC and Laurie Cumbo and all the offices, all in one letter. Can we see that? Okay, thank God to you all. Thank you so much. I really, really love my award. You're going to see what I'm talking about next year. Maybe not, maybe sooner than that.
Stanley Banks.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Stanley
You
Banks.
got to teach me how to bow now. Bop!
Okay, we're going to get into our first presentation. And to help me with that, I'm going to invite to the stage Central Brooklyn Jazz Consortium board member to please come up and take the podium. I don't know, as you know, this next institution is, I'll let Mike talk more about it. I'll bring the award up to you. And we're going to ask also Central Brooklyn Jazz Consortium member Deborah McClain, Brownstone Jazz, Sankofa Bread and Breakfast, which we all know as a home of jazz every Friday and Saturday night. Debbie Mack, as we affectionately call her. Debbie, please come up. Debbie Mack, y'all. This is the Jazz Shrine Award, and to represent the Jazz Shrine Award, Flamingo Lounge, we're going to ask Debbie and Mike Howard to, on behalf of Levi, who could not be, is in North Carolina, to say a couple words on behalf of the Jazz Shrines of Brooklyn. Michael Howard, Debbie Mack.
Thank you, Bob. I had someone to represent the Flamingo Lounge, one of its legendary patrons, and he didn't get here yet. I guess it's because he keeps the same hours that Flamingo kept, midnight to 5 a.m. But I hope he's, yes, so we have Debbie here.
I'm going to accept this award that Michael is about to present.
Thank you, Debbie. This is award. It goes to Flamingo Lounge on Kingston Avenue, one of Brooklyn's most famous speakeasies. And I know some of you remember that. I remember battles. I remember when Stanley played there, him and John Moody, Battle of the Basses. And so many musicians visited that place after they get off from their regular nighttime gig. Sir Charles, remember? Come on, help us out here. Neil, you know.
I'd like to mention an artist that we lost just this week, Billy Paul. There was a time that I worked back when at a club called Town Hill 2. And definitely on the weekends when that place closed, the artists would go to places like the Flamingo. So I am honored to accept this for them. And let's remember the artists that we've lost and the places that are closed, and work hard to get this shrine going. Yeah, in Central Brooklyn. Okay.
If Calvin Sherman shows up, I'm going to bring him up. He'll say something for a minute. Thanks, y'all.
But do I get to keep this?
Yeah, you
No,
keep that
I
till
keep
then.
it.
Michael and Debbie Mack. Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you, baby.
Thank you. No. She said no, she ain't giving that up. Okay. That's an archival piece for the Brooklyn Jazz Hall of Fame and its museum. So next, as we move the program along, you know, the heartbeat of the music always moves on. Whether you from bebop, hip-hop, to what we call modern jazz or the jazz of today in all its incarnations. You see young people such as the Young Lions who have passed through our ranks. Marcus Strickland, Robert Glasper, just to name two. Yes, and Lioness, excuse me. That's right. But we're pleased tonight to have the Jay-Z and Beyonce team of here. One received the award last year, the Deacon Leroy Applin Young Lion Lioness Award. And the wife received it last year and this year. By no slick of the ballot, we want to bring to the stage Jeff King, the artistic director of the Central Brooklyn Jazz Consortium, to tell you who this year's winner of our Deacon Leroy Applin Award is. Jeff King. Please put your hands together for Jeffrey King. Thank you, Jeff.
Good evening, everybody. It's so great to be here again at the Brooklyn Historical Society, and it's so great to be here talking about this music that we call jazz, okay? And it's very, very important. And, you know, a little while ago, I think he said it takes a village to raise a child, but it also takes a village to keep this music alive, all right? So when you come here, we don't just want you to say, oh, we came and we saw this music and it was free. We want you to go out and support these musicians when it costs money. When it costs money. When it costs $25 to walk through the door. We don't want you to say, oh, that's too much money for jazz. We want you to say, that's not enough. Can I give you some more? And that's the truth of the morning. Now, if you're going to see that the presenters of the Central Brooklyn Jazz Museum and Hall of Fame, we're kind of long in the tooth. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean that we've been around a while. And so what we want to do is to have this music alive forever is by supporting young musicians. And it's very, very important that we do that and we recognize the young musicians. I remember coming up, it was so important for me to see younger musicians playing. I said, oh, I want to be like Gary Bartz. Gary Bartz was a lot younger then. But that's what I'm saying. So this evening, we're so very happy and so very proud to present this award to Lissetti and Sante. Okay? Lissetti's from South Africa. He graduated from the New School of Jazz, contemporary music. He drops is Chop's favorite musicians of the American hard bop scene of the 60s, though raised in the land of the penny whistle, known nationally as Quela music, he developed his own voice, blending styles of both continents. And when I first saw Lissetti play, I said, man, he could play. And that's all you really got to say about somebody. You don't have to say where his music comes from, whether it's hard bop, soft bop. You have to say, man, he can play. And Lissetti can play. And that's why we're proud as a Central Brooklyn Jazz Consortium to give this honor to Lissetti, Bob Myers, as a Young Lions Award. And that means we appreciate him as being a young man or a young musician representing this music. Lissetti, give him a big hand.
Sanbonan, Ninjani, I'll see a pillar, and I'm a pillar. Du Melan, Achelegai. Okay, that's all it means. Good morning, greetings. In my ethnic language, Sesotho and Zulu. Give me 1 second, please. I wrote a couple of words down because I come very far. So I have a lot that I have to acknowledge. First of all, I'm extremely honored to be here. It really warms my heart. When I first made the journey on my own to come and study music, because I really appreciated the art form. You know, I had so many factors that were opposing this trip for me, just to come and go to school. You know, the exchange rate, you know, world economics, you know, now it's 15-1. But at that time, it was 7-1. But that was still steep. You know, that in itself tells you, you know, the divide within our society, our community. It keeps us divided even further than what we think. But today, I remember this day 22 years ago. I was about 6 years old. And back home, there was something extremely special about this day 22 years ago. I was a kid in a room that both my mother and my father had, you know, constructed into our living quarters. It split just one single room into one part was the bedroom, one part was the kitchen. That didn't matter because it was just full of love. So I didn't see that. But this day had so much energy around it. I mean, by 9 o'clock in the morning, both my parents were ready, dressed up, you know, clean, and we were watching the TV screen. It just happened it was the day today that Nelson Mandela was inaugurated as the first black president, or democratically elected president in South Africa. So today is Freedom Day back home. So it's an extra special day for me to be here because I'm an extension of so many people. And since then, you know, April 27, you know, we celebrated because South Africa was the second last African country to receive democratic emancipation from colonial power. And I'm just the fruit of all that struggle, so I have to acknowledge it. I would like to thank all my ancestors, all my predecessors, all that came before me, for all that they've done. Because without their struggle, or because without their resilience, or their persistence, I wouldn't be here today. I would like to thank them for their life, because without it, you know, I wouldn't be amongst such esteemed company of great spirits, agents of change, and voices of all our hearts. It extremely humbles me that, you know, what is visible with the naked eye doesn't necessarily always tell the complete picture. Because as I stand right here, it is not clear to you on honestly how many people's shoulders I stand on. You know, it baffles me. But sometimes all you can do is just giggle and just appreciate it. But the truth of our existence is captured always and forever by the music and the center of our spiritual pitch. Because as I was growing, the only thing that I was taught more important than anything, was the music. Music was centered around death, life, celebration, pain, and somehow it captured my heart too. And the trumpet was an instrument that sang to my heart. And I was just fortunate that I was born at a time where so much music and so many giants had walked before me. So it just slightly made my path a little bit easy because I just had to acknowledge and pay attention to what they had created to be able to move forward. But what seems pretty clear as a black musician, because the struggle is not separate to my existence, nor any of our existence, is that many of the conditions that shaped the soul of the music, regardless of where you are in the world, but most of those mechanics that shape the music haven't really changed that much. You know, we live in a time where we have to acknowledge that at a time that Louis Armstrong, for him to have his music exist, he had to eventually at one point sign a contract giving away 50% of all that he was about to do for his entire life so that he could just keep going on and playing the music. We have to acknowledge the struggles of giants like Charlie Parker, who didn't really get the recognition that they deserved at the time of their life. And it was only about 20 or 30 or 40, 50 years afterwards that we acknowledged the greatness of their work. And I mean, I'm here today receiving an award, which in the 40s or in the 30s would have been unheard of a black musician standing in a crowd and being acknowledged for his art form. So I thank you very much for this. And as much as I would take it and like to put my name on it, it clearly does not belong to me, as I'm an extension of something greater than myself. And I thank you for honoring me to be able to move the history of our people forward. And I'll try to do my best. Thank you.
Before I let Lucetti leave the stage, he said something. He said that the trumpet was an angel to his heart. But I'm going to tell you somebody else. Come on. Come on. Jasmania Horn, this is his angel too. And she also is one of our Young Lioness Awards. She won the award last year. We'd like to introduce you to her. This is not just Lucetti alone. Like, come on stage. Take a picture with us.
She's supposed to use the pretzels.
It's a family affair.
Smile, bitches. Say hi.
Again, Lucetti and Sante. Give him a big hand. And Jasmania Horn.
Thank you, Jeff King. You know, as we're moving along in this program, I'm going to invite someone to the stage to say a couple words personally to everyone here. Someone is going to, Lucetti probably touched your heart, and now we have to touch some other parts of your awareness in life. I'm going to invite Dwight Brewster to the stage, just for one special, you know. No organization can run without assistance. That's right, Lauren. You was our financial secretary. You know what we're talking about right now. Don't let nobody out. Close the doors. Dwight's going to come up and say a couple special words to you just for a couple minutes. So we hope you take heed and do what you need to do. Dwight Brewster, board member, Central Brooklyn Jazz Consortium.
Thank you so much, Bob. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. This is a fantastic affair. We give it every year, and I'm blown away at the fantastic artists that we get a chance to honor and acknowledge. It's a big deal. Come on, put your hands together. We're all here. It's a big deal. This specific, show me the money. Okay. She needs the cash. Okay, we'll start working on that immediately. So I like to say this award is very dear to me. I think Jazz Impact is something very special. Now, a little later, Miss Tulivu Donna Cumberbatch is going to come up and talk about the award specific and what it means. As a previous award winner, I'm sure she'll give an insight. But right now, I want to talk about Neil Clark. Percussionist, Baba Neil Clark, put your hands together. Let's acknowledge the brother. So we're here to honor him, but before I get there, I want to say this is also a fantastic fundraising time. Okay? Jazz is not free. You may come to the event for free, but somebody is paying the bill. Okay? So I want to make that abundantly clear, and I want to reach out to you and suggest that you take an opportunity to invest in jazz, so-called jazz, the music we call jazz, in this community so we can keep it live here, now, and for the foreseeable future. Now, we're fortunate enough to head an organization that was founded to do exactly that. And we're watching carefully as our original founders advance to the ancestor stage. So that means it's upon each and every one of us to keep the legacy alive and moving. Do not abrogate your responsibility. Do not say anymore that somebody else will get it. I'll pitch in later. Oh, I'll try my best when I can. Oh, I don't have any cash right now. Oh, I don't understand. Please. All of that's excuses. Now, let's be honest. If you want this to survive, we must contribute. So a little bit later, we're going to have an opportunity for you to do that on the way out. And I appreciate your reciprocal response. Bob, can I call up Donna now? Miss Tulivu Cumberbatch? I'd like to bring to the stage now Miss Cumberbatch. And she's going to talk about the details of this specific award. I think this one has impact. Donna?
Thank you. Peace and love and blessings, everyone. Good evening. I received the Jazz Impact Award a few years ago, presented to me by Brother G.B.T.V and Sister Tori McCartney. And as Stanley said, it's such an honor to be recognized by your peers. Gave me great pleasure, great happiness to receive that award. And I'm honored tonight that I can help Dwight present the award to one of my buddies, one of my main buddies, Baba Neil, who I had the pleasure of recording with and working with on several occasions. And his musicianship is invaluable. Working in the recording studio, he was invaluable with his suggestions and his artistry and just his very presence made the recording go that much smoother. And working with him on the stage is just as phenomenal. I love being around jazz musicians. They're wise, they're knowledgeable, well-read, great sense of humor. Neil is all of that and more. Very spiritual and just a wonderful human being and a great, phenomenal artist. He plays with commitment, he plays with so much passion, and he just makes you enjoy the music that much more when he's present, when he's around. So I'm honored with Dwight to present Baba Neil Clark with this award.
All right, I want to read Neil's bio now.
Sure.
All right, Neil Clark is receiving the Jazz Impact Award, is a longtime collaborator of Randy Weston and his African Rhythms Band. Neil Clark has also enjoyed a long-standing relationship with such notable artists as Harry Belafonte, Onaje Allen Guns, Diane Reeves, David Sanborn, Miriam Makeba. Oh, wow, I didn't know that. Letta Mbulu, Carlos Garnett, Paul Winter, Dwight Dr. Mambo Brewster. The Spirit, who's that? Wow, I'm ad-libbing now, right? The Spirit Ensemble, to Louisville, Donna Cumberbatch. Wow. And the late Neil Pointer, as well as many, many more. So, Noel Pointer, sorry. Did I do that wrong? Yes, you did. Okay, Noel Pointer. So I'd like to take this time to bring the fabulous Baba Neil Clark to the stage. I'd like to present him this award for 2016 Jazz Impact. Neil Clark. I got you, Mo. I got you. What you going to do now? I don't know what to say something. Speech, 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 speech.
Thank you, Dwight. Tulivu. How much time y'all got? Wow. This is, you imagine what it's like to get an award, but then when you get it, it's like, okay, what do you do now? I like the creator. The ancestors. My family. Central Brooklyn Jazz Consortium. And everybody and anybody that has ever listened to me play the drum and appreciated what I did. And even if you didn't, thank you for listening. Lissetti, why'd you steal my speech, man? I gotta acknowledge Baba G.B.T.V Weusi, because anybody that knows me knows that at some point or another you're gonna see me wearing African garb. That's because of Baba G.B.T.V. That's because of the African Students Association that he started when I was in school. We are an African people. We're descended from kings and queens. And he was the first one that kind of crystallized that idea for me of my connection as a person of color here with Africa. And it was really because of that consciousness that he instilled in me that I took a journey. And the journey that I've taken, the vehicle was the African drum. The African drum gave me the opportunity to travel throughout the diaspora and understand what it meant to be an African person, because it gave me the opportunity to get insight into all of the different dimensions of what African people say musically. Bob Myers, Baba G.B.T.V, Jeff King, Stanley Banks, Dr. Mambo, we all have had long relationships musically. Baba G.B.T.V were the first two people to get me to be a leader of my own group here in Brooklyn. Before that, I've been a sideman for the last, right. And it was G2 that suggested, why don't you be a leader? Why don't you do this? Bob was one of the first people that said, why don't you do this gig with your own band? And it took me to another level. But this journey of traveling with the drum, traveling around the world, seeing what it means to be a musician, seeing how musicians are respected. We talk about jazz. I have two words that define this music that we call jazz. And I don't subscribe to that word, but it's the word that we use. Max doesn't. Ellington didn't. Randy doesn't. We each had different terminologies for that word, for the music. But I have two definitions for this music. Virtuosity and spontaneous composition. I do not subscribe to improvisation. That's too trivial. Virtuosity and spontaneous composition. Virtuosity does not mean that you're the greatest. It means you're the greatest that you can be at any given time. How can you apply your artistry to the point that you are, to the extent that you are, at this given moment to create music at this time? And we all evolve. And hopefully we continue to evolve, because life is about growth and life is about evolution. When something stops growing, it's dead, but until that time, it continues to grow. So this journey has allowed me to explore this dimension of what it means to be African. It's particularly significant for me as an artist, an African-American artist, an African in America, an artist that is an African in America, because the instrument that I play was suppressed to a greater degree in this country than any place else in the world. It was suppressed in other places, in Cuba, in Peru, in Puerto Rico, in Brazil. But in the United States, it was to a greater degree than any place else. And people say it was taken away. Well, people that know me know that I'm a scholar, and I refute that point. It was not taken away. But that's another conversation. But the fact that I have been allowed to learn about this instrument and to in turn take the understanding and the knowledge of this instrument as a musical instrument, comparable to the piano, comparable to the saxophone, comparable to the bass, and apply it to the musical conversation that we call jazz, it's been a wonderful and exciting experience for me. That's why I do it. I don't do it for the money. I don't do it for the notoriety. I don't do it for the awards. I do it because when I hit that drum, there's nothing else in the world that does that for me. And that's why I do it. But the fact that I have been able to do it on the level with the various people that you heard in my bio and so many more who have helped me to be a better musician, but a better human being. And to understand what music means in the human experience, the conversation, that it can bring people together who can't speak together. They don't speak the same language, but for that moment that the music is playing, we're all together. And to travel and to be respected and to be appreciated all over the world is one thing, but to come home and to be able to be recognized and appreciated at home is something even more so. I go all over the world and I play, and it really means something when I can come home here and I can share what I do, I can share what I know, I can share what I've learned with my people, with my folks, with my family, and I appreciate that. But as Lissetti said, thank you very much for this award. But as I stand here with this award, I'm thinking about the people that came before me that allowed me to be here. Chief Bay, Sonny Morgan, Richie Landrum, Bobby Crowder. I can go on and on. Master Henry Gibson, Eddie Bongo Brown, and I can go on and on and on and on and on of the percussionists who have been Mongo Santa Maria, Armando Peraza. I could go on and on and on of the people who, as I was coming up, I listened to them and I was like, wow, I wanna do that. And to be able to stand here now. And for you guys to say that I do it to the point that it's worth recognition, there are no words. So I just want to say, Central Brooklyn Jazz Consortium, thank you guys so much for all of the patrons. I'd just like to share one small story to reiterate. Greg Lewis, organ monk, shared a story with me. There was a small club that he was working at, I think on Franklin and St. John's for a period of time. And they were trying to get some jazz going on there. And what is it? Okay. And what was happening is that folks were not coming through the door. I don't know if he's still there, but folks were not coming through the door. And he shared with me that they weren't getting a lot of attendance, but when the young people came in there, they didn't know about jazz. But when they heard it, they were like, wow, what's this? Wow, this is bad. I'm enjoying this. But the disappointing thing for him was that the people in the neighborhood would not come through the door to pay $15, I think it was, to hear jazz, but they were spending $60 to go over to the arena to hear Beyonce. So it's not like the money is not there for people to patronize jazz. The question is, how do we reach out to the younger generations to get them to appreciate this art form to the point that they're willing to support it? So what Stanley said, what Laurie said, my wife is here. My wife is right here. I don't know if she can, but I can come down there. You want to come up here? She don't want to come up here. You putting her on the spot, you know. Okay. Okay. All right. My wife, Pat. Hey, that's it. I'm coming down there. But as I come, I just really want to make this point, ladies and gentlemen, that the music needs to be supported. And we need to promote it to the next generation so that they can appreciate it. School programs, 9 o'clock in the morning, musicians don't want to play it. Oh man, it's too early, I can't play. You know what you don't understand is that is audience building. If you go in and you hit the way you hit at 10 o'clock at night or 11 o'clock at night, at 9 o'clock in the morning, those elementary school children are going to say, wow, I want to do that the same way that we did. And it's those kind of things that are really important going forward. If you love this music the way I love this music, if we want to see it be perpetuated, these are the kind of things that we got to think about. Thank you so much.
Mr. Neil Clark, everybody. Neil Clark. Baba Neil Clark. Neil was in rare form last night. Thank you, Neil, for all you do for Brooklyn Jazz. And you know what? I would be remiss in my duties as master of ceremonies. Can I say something? Otherwise. Yes, well, James is coming up, darling. You're going to say a lot of something for sure. Ooh, we like that, Gene. We want you to be our banker. That's right. Yes, well, that's right. And you know what, Gene, that's a perfect segue into me as my duties, because, you know, I don't like to embarrass anybody, but we are glad to have in our presence a great jazz pianist, Roberta Gambarini. Roberta, please stand. Let the audience recognize you. Roberta Gambarini. Thank you, Roberta. Yes, Gene, and we'll hear from Dwight Brewster later on about that very point about money and the music, the business of this music we call jazz. And right now, as we move along, I'm going to ask my colleague and fellow board member, treasurer of Central Brooklyn Jazz Consortium, Bessie Edwards, to come to the podium as we go into our induction phase of our Brooklyn Jazz Hall of Fame ceremony. Bessie Edwards, please.
Thank you, Bob. Like they do on television, it's like Bob Myers. Give him a hand. He worked so hard to make this happen. 8 o'clock in the morning, he starts. Well, he probably starts earlier, but he calls me at 8 o'clock in the morning. So this is a wonderful opportunity. I'm so inspired by the awardees because the things that they said are inspirational to me, and I'm sure they're inspirational to you. I'm not a musician, so for it to inspire me, it's got to be high-level motivation. So my role is to introduce Mr. Ronnie Matthews, and his daughter is here. Could she please come up? Leslie. Thank you, Leslie. Ronnie Matthews was a member of Art Blakey's Jazz Messengers in the late 50s through early 60s. The lifelong Brooklynite toured internationally and recorded with Max Roach, Freddie Hubbard, and Roy Haynes. Ronald will be best remembered for his long association with the Johnny Griffin Quartet. In the 90s, Matthews recorded with the Clifford Jordan Big Band. Pancreatic cancer took Ronnie away from us in June of 2008. So we are pleased to honor him this evening. Would you please, Bob? We want to present this to you on behalf of your dad, and we'd ask you to say a few words on his behalf.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everybody. Wrote a little something. I'm so honored to be here tonight to accept this award for Ronnie Matthews. He's left us with an electric, potent, influential body of work that will keep his musical spirit alive forever. He'd be so honored and appreciative of this recognition. Thank you.
We can't let her get away that fast. The great Ronnie Matthews deserves. Leslie.
Yes.
I know you're choked up about this, you know. This was a long, hard journey to find the Matthews family. So we have to thank, what's it?
Salima, too.
Salima.
We have to mention
to
Salima.
find Salima.
She's
talk
on a
about
boat.
that German.
She's on a boat.
Yes.
She's on a boat.
Salima's on a slow boat somewhere. But to find Salima, to find Leslie, we had to find Ronnie Matthews. And I reached out to Kathy Sansones. Here's Kathy, please take a stand. Ronnie's, everybody in the jazz world knows of the salsera, Kathy Sanson. She's well known at the beach up at Orchard Beach, so come out to Staten Island and do your dancing favor up there for this thing. But I have to thank Maxine Gordon.
She's not here.
Gordon, no, well, Maxine led us, James, to Salima,
Right.
how we got to Leslie, and Kate Smith. Kate Smith? Is it the publicist? Kate Smith, I'm right? Kim Smith, excuse me, Kim Smith, yes. Kim Smith, her E-blast going out, and Jim Igo to help us find Ronnie and find Leslie. So Leslie, on behalf of myself, I know Ronnie, as Neil mentioned, the Up Over Jazz Cafe, Ronnie brought a lot of musicians to my club. You know, when you first open the club, it's hard for people to say, well, what kind of piano you got, man? You know, who's up there? I can't just show up anywhere. I remember Cedar's telling me, Cedar wanted to say, you know, Bob, I can't overexpose myself. So Cedar, Cedar will come up every Monday night because the great Vincent Herron was running the jam sessions. And the jam sessions, James was, well, that's a long story. We'll have a nighttime with James. James and Gene Spaulding, that's going to be quite a scene. I suggest we take a wine break for that one, folks. But once again, Leslie Conte, we thank you for blessing us.
Thank you so much.
Ronnie Matthews, everybody.
Bless you,
Ronnie
Bob.
Matthews. The great Ronnie Matthews. Ronnie Matthews.
Thank you.
Hey, baby. Thank you for being a part. Leslie, thank you so very much. Wow. Well, you know what? Before we announce our next presenter, it really takes me great pleasure to be part of this one. I know we mentioned the starting a jazz club. Everybody wants, of course, you want the greatest of music. As a jazz club owner, you also want to have fun in the club yourself. Can you imagine what it is night after night to listen to the same people play? And you say, oh man, I can't believe I booked this motherfucker. You know, I mean, it gets kind of crazy. So as we was maturating, you know, along came James Spaulding. I was fascinated with the Night of the Cookers. I grew up 2 blocks from President and Nostrand, Club La Marchelle. That record blew me out. I mean, Lee and Freddie going at it, and that person on the flautist, who was that? Anyway, you know, we'll see. Well, maybe I wish I had the song. But, yeah, but this takes me great pleasure, and it takes me great pleasure to bring our presenter for our inductee tonight. I'd like to invite Central Brooklyn Jazz Consortium Chairman Clarence Mosley Jr. to the stage. Clarence, please give him a round of applause. Clarence Mosley Jr. And he'll speak on my good friend. Please, Clarence, please.
Good evening. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone for coming out tonight and supporting Central Brooklyn Jazz. There's a couple of things I heard, and I wanted to thank Lori for talking about funding and what a not-for-profit has to go through. These are very, I wouldn't say challenging times, but it's a very difficult time to raise money. So it's important that our market and the people that support us, but the political community has been very benevolent this year, and I want to thank them. Stanley Banks left, but I wanted to thank him for his idea, and I think that's something that we could really work on. I also want to thank the board members of Central Brooklyn Jazz Consortium. Thank you. Thank you. This is a volunteer organization, and no one gets paid, and we put a lot of hours and time in to put these events together. So I want to thank my colleagues for the long hours, the dedication to keep this thing going. We talked about G.B.T.V. G2 asked me to consider being the chairman. It's like, G2, I don't know if I want to do that, you know. But if you knew G2, it was real hard to say no, okay? I mean, he asked me once, he asked me twice. I said I would do it. And it's been a labor of love. It hasn't been easy, but it has been a labor of love. So I'm here, and secondly, I just want to congratulate all the awardees tonight. But I'm really pleased to be able to introduce for the Lifetime Achievement Award, James Spaulding. Now, James, you could correct me if I'm wrong because it's been so long ago, but there used to be a group called the Jazz Communicators. You remember that group? Led by Freddie Hubbard and Louis Hayes. And that group, I was a young man, we used to go to Slugs, and they were playing. And I think James played with them on an occasion. Is that correct? On occasion, okay. But Bob talked about Night of the Cookers, but I remember when I heard that record, Breaking Point, with Freddie Hubbard, that really moved me. And I said, this is a wonderful alto player, beautiful flautist, wonderful musician. So James from Naptown, with all the wonderful musicians, I have the pleasure of presenting the Lifetime Achievement Award to James Spaulding. James Spaulding, upon relocating to New York City in 1963 and becoming part of Blue Note Record family of artists. Some of Spaulding's memorable jazz contributions happened in Brooklyn during his long residency here. James was a part of the Night of the Cookers session in Brooklyn, April 9th and 10th, 1965. And what is dubbed one of the most compelling documents of a live band in full flight. Max Roach, Wayne Shorter, Art Blakey, Lee Morgan, and Freddie Hubbard, just to name a few, are some of the jazz masters James Spaulding has had in association. So I'd like to present the Lifetime Achievement Award to a jazz master, James Spaulding. Shine, James.
All right, amen. Praise God. All praises to God. Oh man, I first thought out praising the Creator of all great and small things we have, and I'm going to acknowledge my father who brought me into this music by bringing home all those jazz records. You know, Louis Armstrong, everybody that I could listen to. He brought home those recordings. That's what got me into this music and made me fall in love with it. And I'll never, forget him and never forget the encouragement I had from my mother, who always encouraged me to keep practicing. I'm driving the crazy around there practicing my horn, trying to, get it together. And my dad used to tell me, stop playing so many notes. He said, play the melody. I said, oh, what? I said, oh, okay, Dad, I was so busy experimenting, trying to get the horn together, and listening to those records. And so the person who brought me into this music and I met in 1963 was my wonderful wife, Jean, who was sitting here just talking about the money. She knows. She was the one who brought me, kept me strong, kept me in New York, kept me in Brooklyn, because I was ready to go back to India, no place. I call it Indianapolis, sorry. And Naptown. J.J. Johnson named it Naptown, because when you go there, you got to set your watch back 200 years. Oh, yeah, that's where that Cruz guy, he's there now speaking to the Indiana, racists there. There's a whole bunch of them there, So it's a shame, man. I didn't even think about all that racism going on in the music. I was so filled with music. I wanted to make people happy, bring people out, bring people together with these drums, these African drums, rhythms. When I met Randy Weston, he turned me on to the roots of the music. So that made me say, oh, wow, what is this, where the music is coming from? My wife would tell you, man, that's all I used to talk about was Randy. And I had the opportunity and the honor to work with that brother. And I was supposed to go to Africa, to Morocco, and I missed my flight.
Oh, Lord.
See, I got my purple cane, for the Prince. I got my shirt for the brother. I acknowledge him. And let's everybody give a wonderful round of applause to that brother Spirit who left us with it. Prince, his name was Roger Nelson, right? And I'm sorry, excuse me, I'm just excited about this. Thank you. Wait a minute. Yeah, are we here? Are we here? Am I here? Okay. Thank you, Lord. Thank you. God bless you all, and coming out here, and I'm very honored. This is my third presentation here in Brooklyn in 2008. They gave me with the Jazz Impact Award here with G.B.T.V, and that was my second award. And the first award I got was in Indianapolis, Indiana, my hometown, for the 1990 award, and I'm so happy about that. So. Right now, I'm going through some back problems. We call it spinal stenosis, and I'm working on that to get back on the scene. And yeah, Brother Neil, bro, I got to get back out here with this brother on them drums, Lord. Y'all hear this brother on them drums, man. I mean, good night. So anyway, I'm so honored and proud to be here and receiving this award. And I'm gonna get back out here on the scene with this trumpet player here, this young brother here. I'm looking forward to that, brother. Yes, indeed. So thank you, brother. Thank you for bringing me up here for this.
It's a pleasure.
All right. I didn't mean to,
Bring your wife up here since she's been your backbone.
Yeah, Jean, come on up here, darling. Oh well. Anyway, this is my first baby. Yeah, this is my first child. All right, Yvonne. Yvonne's over there at the door selling my CDs. We all produce. We all put our money together. We can do it. We can have our own record companies. We can have our own radio stations. We can have anything we want if we get together and just do it together and trust one another, and we can do it. Here's my Yvonne here, and Jean. Here's Yvonne. Yeah, this is my rock. Yeah, this is my rock.
So I'm pleased to give this award to the whole family because it's a family affair. Okay, and thank you, Gene, for keeping them in New York. Okay, it's a wonderful thing, and you have two beautiful daughters, and thank you, Gene, for all the beautiful music you've produced over these years, and you will continue to produce.
I will continue.
I thank God for this gift.
Right.
It's a wonderful thing.
Music is a gift from God.
Here you go. I pray every morning I wake up and I praise God for waking me up this morning. I thank God, and all of a sudden music starts coming into my head, y'all. I hear music all the time, and I just want to sing this. This little, the little light of mine was one of my inspirations, and the other song was, up above my head, I hear music in the air. Up above my head, I hear music in the air. Up above my head, I hear music in the air. 'Cause I know there must be a God somewhere.
All right. Congratulations. Congratulations.
All right,
You
thank you.
inspired me. You inspired me. Beautiful, beautiful.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, brother.
Put your hands together for James Spalding. James Spalding, put your hands together. Come on, that's all you got? Put your hands together, James Spalding.
The bar is now open.
Thank you so much.
But listen, ladies and gentlemen, there's a festival going on. We're in the midst of the Central Brooklyn Jazz Festival, so please go to cbjcjazz.org or sign our email list, and we'll send you what's happening. Lissetti represents the Young Jazz Lions coming along, and on Saturday, May 14th, George Johnson reminded me that we're having a program, the Youth Jazz Jamboree Wellness Day, on the campus of Bedford-Stuyvesant Restoration Corporation. Please come out and see this next generation of musicians performing outside at Bedford-Stuyvesant Restoration Plaza on Fulton Street. And sign our email address, and we're going to put your hands together. We're going to bring Kim Clark back and these fine musicians to take us home. We have more refreshments and talk to our awardees, inductees tonight. We thank you all for coming out. I see Rashim Sahu Asul. Rashim is in the house. Thank Rashim to come out. Roberta, thank you. Everybody, thank you all for coming out. And thank you to Spaulding family come out. The Matthews family, Leslie Conte, Leslie Lissetti. Thank you, Lissetti. Okay, enjoy the music, y'all. Let's hear it.